Dante's Inferno, Canto 23, Escape from Melbranch, The Six Bolgia, Hypocrites, Catalano and Lodoringo, Caiaphas. Silent, alone, and without company we went, the one in front, the other after, as go the minor friars along their way. Upon the fable of Aesop was directed my thought, by reason of the present quarrel, where he has spoken of the frog and mouse. For Mo and Issa are not more alike than this one is to that, if well we couple end in beginning with a steadfast mind. And even as one thought from another springs, so afterward from that was born another, which was the first fear within me double made. Thus did I ponder. These on our account are laughed to scorn with injury and scoffs so great, that I think it must annoy them. If anger be engrafted on ill will, they will come after us more merciless than dog upon the leveret which he seizes. I felt my hair stand all on end already with terror, and stood backwardly intent, when said I, Master, if thou hidest not thyself and me forthwith of Melbranch, I am in dread. We have them now behind us, I so imagine them, I already feel them. And he, if I were made of leaded glass, thine outward image I should not attract sooner to me than I imprint the inner. Just now thy thoughts came in among my own, with similar attitude and similar face, so that of both one counsel so I made. If peradventure the right bank so slope that we to the next Bolgia can descend, we shall escape from the imagined chase. Not yet he finished rendering such opinion, when I beheld them come with outstretched wings, not far remote, with will to seize upon us. My leader on a sudden seized me up, even as a mother who by noise is wakened, and close beside her sees the enkindled flames, who takes her son and flies and does not stop, having more care of them than of herself, so that she clothes her only with a shift. And downward from the top of the hard bank, supine he gave him to the pendant rock, that one side of the other Bolgia walls. Ne'er ran so swiftly water through a sluice to turn the wheel of any land-built mill when nearest to the paddles it approaches, as did my master down along that border, bearing me with him on his breast away as his own son, and not as a companion. Hardly the bed of the ravine below his feet had reached, ere they had reached the hill right over us. He was not afraid. For the high providence which had ordained to place them ministers of the fifth mote, the power of thence departing took from all. A painted people there below we found, who went about with footsteps very slow, weeping, and in their semblance tired and vanquished. They had on mantles with the hoods low down before their eyes, in fashion of the cut that in Cologne they for the monks are made. Without they gilded our so that it dazzles, but inwardly all leaden and so heavy that Frederick used to put them on of straw. O everlastingly fatigued mantle! Again we turned us still to the left hand along with them, intent on their sad plaint, but owing to the weight that weary folk came on so tardily that we were new in company at each motion of the haunch. Whence unto my leader, see thou find someone who may be by deed or name be known, and thus in going move thine eye about. And one, who understood the Tuscan speech, cried to us from behind, Stay ye your feet, ye who run so athwart at the dusky air. Perhaps thou'lt have from me what thou demandest. Whereat the leader turned him and said, Wait, and then according to his pace proceed. I stopped, and two beheld I show great haste of spirit in their faces to be with me, but the burden and the narrow way delayed them. When they came up, long with an eye askance, they scanned me without uttering a word, then to each other turned and said together, He by the action of his throat seems living, and if they dead are, by what privilege go they uncovered by the heavy stall? Then said to me, Tuscan, who to the college of miserable hypocrites art come, do not disdain to tell us who thou art. And I to them, Born was I, and grew up, and the great town, the fair river of Arno. The body am I've always had. But who are ye, whom there trickles down along your cheeks such grief as I behold? And what pain is upon you that so sparkles? And one replied to me, these orange cloaks are made of lead so heavy that the weights cause in this way their balances to creak. Frati Gaudenti were we, and Bolognese, I Catalano and he Lodoringo named, and together taken by thy city as the wont is to take one man alone, for maintenance of its peace, and we were such that it is still apparent round Gardinga. O friars, began I, you're iniquitous, but said no more. For to mine eyes there rushed one crucified with 3 stakes on the ground. When me he saw, he writhed himself all over, blowing into his beard with suspirations. And the friar Catalan, who noticed this, said to me, this transfixed one, whom thou seest, counseled the Pharisees that it was meet to put one man to torture for the people. Crosswise and naked is he on the path, as thou perceivest, and he needs must feel whoever passes first how much he weighs. And in like mode his father-in-law is punished within this boat, and the others of the council, which for the Jews was a malignant seed. And thereupon I saw Virgilius marvel over him, who was extended on the cross so vilely in eternal banishment. Then he directed to the friar this voice, be not displeased if granted thee to tell us if to the right hand any pass slope down, by which we too may issue forth from here, without constraining some of the black angels to come and extricate us from this deep. Then he made answer, nearer than thou hopest there is a rock, that forth from the great circle proceeds and crosses all the cruel valleys, save that at this 'tis broken and does not bridge it. You will be able to mount up the ruin, that sidelong slopes and at the bottom rises. The leader stood a while with head bowed down, then said, the business badly he recounted, who grapples with his hook the sinners yonder. And the friar, many of the devil's vices once heard I at Bologna, and among them that he's a liar and the father of lies. Thereat my leader with great strides went on, somewhat disturbed with anger in his looks. Once from the heavy laden I departed, after the prints of his beloved feet. Lots of things to unpack here, major overarching themes and a few subtle points here. The first and the most obvious is the hypocrites. The hypocrites wear a golden hood, but underneath they are painted leaden. I think the imagery is obvious here. Most people think when they think of hypocrite, they think really of inconsistency, someone who says one thing and does another. But really, hypocrisy is from the Greek, which means to put on a mask. It means something more deceptive than inconsistent. You can lay down a rule and not realize you're not keeping it. But a hypocrite puts on a mask specifically. They disguise, they put on show. And so it's fitting then that those in this layer of hell for hypocrites put on show. In the surface, they have what they've always wanted, a golden layer. They're whitewashed sepulchres, right? But underneath, they're painted with lead and therefore heavy, and therefore can never make any real progress. In this case, the allegory is for any real spiritual progress, as many commentators have said. The other interesting point here is Caiaphas. Caiaphas is the one laying pinned down to the ground. Some interpretations with a crucifix, some without, but regardless, he is in a crucified form, whether or not the cross is there. He has a nail pinned through each hand and one through the feet, so he is in the tau position. And so, if you're not familiar, Caiaphas is the one that posited that for the Jews' salvation, one man was sufficient to die for the sins of all. So, with everything down in hell, we see that not only is our punishment proportionate to our crime, but it's something deeper than that. It's part of our personality. Our personality remains with us from life into death. So that's the importance. That's why it's so important within Christianity to change oneself, to die to self, because whatever self you have here is whatever self you have in eternity. If you're a hypocrite here, you carry hypocrisy into the afterlife. It can't go into heaven, so it goes into hell, and then your punishment is particular to your pride. In this case, in life, the jovial friars, who were supposed to be helping restore and reconcile Florence, since they put on airs in life, they put on airs in hell. Because they're really heavier and weighted down and corrupt in life. They're heavier and weighted down in death. They made no spiritual progress in life. They make no spiritual progress in death. Personality is key here. And then you see that Dante marvels then at Caiaphas. So Flannery O'Connor says there's 4 levels to this: literal, allegorical, moral, and anagogical, which is also Thomas Aquinas's 4 ways of interpreting Scripture. Literally, Caiaphas is crucified as he would have posited for Christ or whoever to be crucified, one man. Allegorical is the condition of the Jews at the time. Since they rejected Christ, since they crucified Christ in life, they were to be crucified forever in hell. The idea that it's more expedient, it's quicker to go ahead and crucify one man in life, and so now the opposite, he's crucified forever in hell. And then finally the analogical, the soul rejects God and knows God as wrath and terror, so he suffers the agony of eternal separation from God. So you notice that Virgil marvels at this, and I think that's my favorite part of this canto. Virgil marvels because Virgil never intentionally rejected God. According to Dante's universe, he simply hadn't known the Christian God yet. And that's why he spared pain and suffering except for separation from God and lives on the outermost rim. So he looks upon Caiaphas, I would interpret with almost how could you? I did the best I could in life to know God without knowing God. And here you knew God, and you rejected him. He marvels at someone who had all the blessings and graces possible and yet rejected them. And then the final piece is the bridge. Remember, just now, they all say that all the bridges to the next Bolgia of hell are cut off. All the bridges, they all broke at the time that Christ was crucified 1,000 years ago. But the devil in one of the last cantos, one of the demons told us that this was the only non-functioning one. So it shows still again this deceit in hell that nothing can be trusted. But then finally look at the friars. They bother at the end of this canto to marvel at the lies of the devil and the father of lies. Even now, like we said, personality, it can't help itself. Even as they're in hell, wearing masks and being leaden, just like in life they wore a mask and were leaden, they made no progress. Still, they're pointing fingers at someone else's sin, the devil's sin, however much he deserves it, about being the father of lies, while still not addressing their own. Beautiful canto.